Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Organizing an ADHD Brain, where the perfect place to start is right where you are. I'm your host, Megs Crawford. I'm a professional organizer, an ADHD coach, and a fellow work in progress. Because let's be honest, we're all work in progress. This season, season 3, we're talking about the messy middle. Not about the before, not about the after, but all of the stuff that comes in between. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff that comes in between that perfect before and after picture. So let's jump right in. Well, hello. Welcome back. I'm Megs Crawford, your host of Organizing an ADHD Brain. And this week, we're going to continue to talk about the messy middle. We're specifically going to dive in what I wish you knew about ADHD and organization. And the idea behind this episode is for you to be able to send this to a loved one, someone who doesn't get it, someone who might be able to start to grasp how your brain works so that you don't have to continuously explain it to them. Or maybe it's too difficult to explain it to them. So this is a really good place to start. My quest to get through the messy middle continues. As we are living in a rental and getting to the other side, we are continuing to find places for things and figuring out what's next. One thing I've challenged myself to do is to become more a part of my community, getting out there and meeting people and introducing myself as a professional organizer and someone who speaks to ADHD. So in the month of September, I was able to join a library. My daughters got their first library cards ever. Where have we been? Under a rock, probably. And we have loved it. I also was able to sign up and get on the calendar to present on ADHD and organizing next year. Something I've always loved to do is speaking, especially in the corporate world. And that's probably why I have a podcast. I just have a lot to say. And I want to help people understand so much that just because you have ADHD does not mean that you're incapable of change. It just means we have to understand what's going on that's preventing you from getting there. And that's okay. I've also been taking some time to pause, deleting social media off my phone, going outside and staring at nature, even when I want my phone or I want something to distract me, being a little bored. And it's really uncomfortable. But part of that discomfort is growth. I'm so used to going to my phone to regulate myself or going to a bowl of chips or something to make myself feel good. But the truth is, those only make me feel good in the moment. Something that Russ said last week on the podcast was really truly feeling the emotions. How can we let ourselves feel the emotions that come up instead of numbing them out, instead of trying to make them go away right away? Another profound thing I've done more recently is work on allowing my kids to feel uncomfortable. And not in the way I'm like, well, it's growth, right? Like not putting a positive spin on it, but like when they're crying, just letting them cry and not trying to make everything okay. Just holding them and loving them and being there for them and just letting it be in the moment what they're doing. Is so often when I'm angry or when I'm sad or I'm having these natural human emotions, I look for a way to make it go away right away. But what if we felt those emotions? Is that what we should be doing? I don't know. If you're a therapist and you're listening to this, is this the answer? Do we need to be feeling it? But it's been really neat to see that, to see my kids work through that. You know, when they bring up missing Colorado, I don't discount it because I miss Colorado too. And it's important that we grieve what we have left behind because this is part of life. There will be things that we have to leave behind, and it's important that we naturally feel those feelings as they come up. Okay, this was not supposed to be a feelings episode. However, it's quickly become that. Quick reminder, I don't have anyone particularly sponsoring this podcast. So, this podcast episode is brought to you by the community, the Organizing an ADHD Brain community. As of this show, the community is now closed for the rest of the fall. If you'd like to be a part of the community in the future, I would love to have you. You can go to organizinganadhdbrain.com and sign up for the waitlist. If you'd like to support the podcast in any other way, drop a 5-star review below, screenshot it, and send it to me Megs at organizinganadhdbrain.com, and I will send you the to-do list download that I talk about in some of my older episodes. It's free. It just takes less than 5 minutes and might be uncomfortable at first, right? Because instead of just putting down the podcast episode and going about your day, I'm asking you to do something additional. It would mean the absolute world for me because as I build this business, it's so hard to ask for help. And this is my way of doing that. Thank you so much for tuning in. So this week we're talking about when we're in the messy middle. What's interesting is we open this can of worms where now our life is disorganized. We see all this clutter around us. We know we need to continue to make changes and what we're doing is not working. So getting to the other side feels really, really uncomfortable. Something that adds to that discomfort and shame is when other people can't see the progress we have made. It's when other people come in and they're like, oh, it's still like this. And then you're like, oh my God, I have worked hours and hours and hours on trying to figure out how to have a space that just feels more comfortable and more at ease and more peaceful. When other people can't see the progress yet, it almost feels like we have to discount ourselves too, because we're like, oh, you're right. I need to be showing more progress. Why am I not showing more progress? I have so much further to go. And we start to go down this rabbit hole. So let's talk about it because having support in community and in friends and family who are encouraging you is everything. Shame never helped anyone. You don't shame yourself into doing stuff. You get to the point where people encourage you. That's why I have this podcast, because people encouraged me. That's why I have my coaching program, because people encouraged me, because I had someone who believed in me and told me that I should absolutely keep doing what I'm doing. So on those days that I started to doubt myself, other people canceled out that self-doubt. So here are some things that you should know. And I'm also going to throw in some things that my community members had to say as well. The first thing you should know is I'm not lazy, okay? My disorganization is not a result of me being lazy. The chaos that manifests in my world is often a manifestation of the chaos that's in my brain. When I am constantly looking for things and trying to figure out how to manage my calendar, and there's 8 soccer games and 5 dance classes, and also events for the school that I need to be managing, but I also have to work, and then I also have to manage the household and improve myself, the stuff that we accumulate is often the way that we try to make ourselves feel better. So it's not just stuff. It's things that we bought thinking, this is it. This is finally going to be the thing that supports me. Or we bought it because we're like, oh, this is it. I got this thing because I didn't have it, but really we had it somewhere else. We just didn't realize it. We didn't know that we had it, so we didn't go to look for it. We're not lazy. We're full of chaos, and it's very difficult to find peace in the chaos when our life is chaotic around us. And if we haven't made a full choice to be uncomfortable and start to attack the clutter around us, then it can often be perceived as lazy. Lazy doesn't exist with ADHD. It is our brain's natural chemical response to our environment. We'll talk more about this in future episodes, but we are constantly scanning our environment for threats, and we react to clutter as a threat. And we either run away from it, we fly from space to space trying to do everything all at once. We feel like a deer in headlights. We are people pleasing everyone around us, or we're trying to do so much research without actually taking action. Or we even hyper focus on it so much that we try to do everything and we quit halfway through because we've burnt ourselves out with all of the decisions that come into play. I'm not lazy. I just don't necessarily know how to be really bad at this at first because no one really taught us how to organize. What does that even mean? And ultimately on paper, it feels like this is something that's really easy. Oh, organization, I should be good at it, right? There comes the should. When truthfully, you're really good at probably what you're doing right now in life for a job or as a mom and a dad to your kids, right? Like there's so many other things that you're good at. Laziness is not what is happening here. I'm not lazy. I'm just handling too much. There's too much on my plate because everything is important. And guess what? When everything is important, I still don't feel like enough. I take on more because I'm like, well, then maybe this will make me feel better about life and what's next and what's happening. But that's not the case. So when it comes to you seeing that I haven't made progress in my home and you come into it and you're like, wow, your first thought is, they're really lazy. They still haven't made any progress. You could then say, how are you? What are you proud of this week? What are you working on? Is there something that I can support you with? Those are helpful questions. Go in curious to understand what's happening instead of making assumptions, because in this day and age, we are making way too many assumptions about the world that we live in. And we do that because we're on social media. So we think we understand what someone believes because the media is telling us what to believe. Or we think we understand who someone is because of what we see around us. And we naturally, as humans, try to make sense of what's happening. And laziness is something that typically comes up, but that's not the thing. We want so much to be decluttered and organized. We're not lazy. We're freaking overwhelmed and we are beat up and we have no idea where to even start. And if we have started, we don't know how to continue because it feels like we've made no progress at all. Number two, it is because we are perfectionists. The second thing I want you to know is that I am a perfectionist. Now, you might look around and be like, I don't think that's the case because it doesn't look very perfect in here. No, I get that. However, it's often what prevents me from being able to start. Because when I look at a space, I look at a closet or a cabinet or, the kitchen, I say, okay, I'd really like things to be more organized. But in order to do that, I need to find some bins that I can put things in. But in order to that, I need to do some research and I should probably take everything out of the cabinet so I can truly understand what I have. And when I do that, then I'm going to meticulously put everything back the way that I think it should go. But this is actually going to take way longer than what I want it to. And also, I would like to do a backsplash while I'm at it because the kitchen is not going to be done until the backsplash is done. So now I have just gone through the entire project in my head, overcomplicated it, and then decided not to do it because I can't do it to the extent that I want to do it. One of my clients told me once that she wanted HGTV to come into her home and do a complete overhaul in a weekend so that it could just finally be organized. Don't we all? I love that meme that I see oftentimes on Instagram where it's like someone blowing up the house just so that you can start over from scratch. Totally. And that's not necessarily possible for most of us. Please don't blow up your house. I used to work in insurance, and that's a whole big headache. But being a perfectionist holds us back from so much. I can even speak to it in the podcast. It was very uncomfortable launching season 3 because I had taken a little bit of a break from launching episodes. So now I'm sitting here like, oh, well, I need to get all this new equipment. Now I need to have a recording studio. And now I need to do this and that and this and that. And I need to do research. No, I just needed to continue and to start. And during this process, I was able to hire someone to edit this podcast. Everybody say hi to Abigail because she is keeping me on schedule and helping me get episodes out on a regular basis. Fascinating. But being a perfectionist holds us back from doing so much because we overcomplicate things. Now it's a huge project. And then we don't have the executive function capabilities in the moment to be able to say, oh, I could just make this one decision and move a little bit forward. Not when we're dysregulated and we're looking at things like, oh my gosh, everything needs to be done or nothing at all. Our all or nothing attitude doesn't go away, but with time, we start to understand that it doesn't go away. So we notice it more. And when we notice that more, we can start to take a step back and be like, what's one thing I could do right now where I could feel like I'm making progress instead of emptying out all my cabinets and trying to do everything all at once because I'm going to burn out. The third thing I want you to know is that I get really excited about a lot of things. Okay. I get excited about almost everything. If there's a new art project for me to do, if there's an art kit for me to do, if there's a thing I want to order, if there's a food that I want to make, if there's a project I want to do in a home, if there's a place I want to move to, if there's a place that I want to travel to, if there's a job idea that I have in the middle of the night that I've now written down, and I'm like, that's it. Now I need to switch. And it's very difficult to set boundaries when it comes to adding more to my plate because when I'm sitting here and thinking about so and so invited me to a birthday party with the kids. Yeah, of course I'm going to go. Oh, and so invited us out to go axe throwing. Cool. Okay, we're going to do that too. But then there's also an event on Sunday. Well, that'll keep us busy. Let's do that too. So we sign ourselves up for all of these things. Then we accept all these projects. It could be a project at our kids' school. It could be joining the PTO. It could be doing another event for the kids. We're not thinking about the time that's involved in doing all of these things. We're just thinking about doing all these things. And our society is so go, go, go that it feels like that is what's going to help us keep up with the Joneses. The idea behind keeping up with the Joneses is just the fact that you see other people living this life, seemingly having it all together. And in order to do the same thing, you have to keep saying yes to all of these things. We're people pleasing everyone because we don't want to say no to someone and hurt their feelings when really a no is merited sometimes and it's honoring you instead of the other people. Can you imagine if you people pleased yourself? Because truthfully, you have no idea what other people want. You only know what you want. Or maybe you don't because you haven't actually asked yourself. That's the thing. But we get really excited about a lot of things. That's why we have a lot of stuff. A lot of it is crafts and projects that we bought and never completed because we actually don't have the time to do any of it, but we're hoping that we might someday. So we have it in queue because, well, what if it comes up? I don't want to forget that this was part of it. But I love the idea of having permission to forget. Ross said this on the podcast last week too, is like, what if you had permission to forget? Last month, we did a no spend challenge in the community. One of the tips that I provided was instead of buying things and putting them in your Amazon cart and buying it 2 days shipping and immediately getting it, sometimes 24 hours later, what if you added it to your cart to see if you still wanted it the next day? What if you added it to your cart or even just a notes app, like a favorites app, where you could say, oh, this is something I thought about, but now it doesn't necessarily make sense anymore. I'm glad I didn't get it in the moment. It's permission to forget because you don't have to buy it right away, but now you have a place to go back and look for it. And I know some of you are probably like, well, I wouldn't ever go back and look for it because I would forget that I had this. But what if you came back to that? You can. There are things that you don't have to forget, and that's tools that support you in forgetting so that you can come back to it because that's where you put the thing that you have permission to forget. Does that make sense? It makes sense. Phew. Okay, let's move on. So, FOMO, right? We have a fear of missing out. We don't want to miss out on all of these things. We say yes to all of these things, and we don't have time to do any of the things to take care of ourselves, including, but not limited to getting rid of the clutter and organizing in a way that makes sense for our brain. The fourth thing I want you to know is that for so many of you, organizing might seem easy. In fact, it might even seem easy for us with ADHD. And we look at it saying, I should be really good at this. So why am I failing? What the hell is wrong with me? This is absolutely ridiculous. And then when someone else comes along and they're like, this is actually really easy. Why aren't you doing it? We got to take a step back for a second. If this is easy, then I would have done it already. Okay. I would have been organized from being a kid, but my brain does not work like that. I don't put things in cute little compartments in my brain. And I for sure am not doing that as a natural instinct in my home. I now do it because I understand some of the ways that it can help me understand my belongings and my space better, but that's not something that comes naturally to me. And it gets really overwhelming when people come in and they start to dictate what you should do and how you should do it. And that's where I do encourage you to hire someone to help you out in your home, but only if they're going to ask you questions on how you live your life so that they're making a space for you to live in as you're already living it, having less versus trying to make it just look really pretty. And that's where sometimes our family members or our friends will come in and they'll be like, I'll organize for you. I'll do this. I'm so excited to support you. And that's fun. Except then when you come back in and you see that, like everything that we've done has been messed up, it's because There's certain systems and ways that I live that now I have to adjust completely in order to live this new way. Organization doesn't come easy to me, but the way that my brain works does. So when we understand that the classic, I talk about this all the time, the Dana K. White, where would you go to look for this if you were trying to look for it? That's where you're able to build trust with yourself. And so that's where your friends and family could come in and say, hey, look, it does not make sense to keep your spices in the cabinet in the dining room. But if that's where you would go to look for them, if you're trying to find them, then that's where you get to put them. Not what makes sense, where you would already go. And you can make changes along the way. That's not where everything goes, right? But you get to decide based on what your brain is already naturally going to do. Even in this home, we're renting right now. So this home isn't necessarily our home yet. And there's still certain places that I would go to look for things if I were trying to find them. And that helps me build the self trust I need to understand where I want to go and how I can actually do this. The fifth thing I really want you to know is that you can't change me. The only person that is responsible for change or is capable of change is me. And I get to make the decision on where I'm going and what I'm doing. You can influence that by asking questions and supporting, but ultimately, it is not going to come down to what your expectations of me are. It's going to come down to what my own expectations of me are and what I want to set my goal and my horizons on. We, as ADHDers, sometimes have trouble with control and we want to control everyone around us. But again, they are the only people that are responsible for what they can achieve. And so when it comes to organization, yes, you are in control of that. And I'm putting quotations up because it is more complicated than that because sometimes we look at our clutter or our disorganization as if we are being attacked by a bear. So why do we do that, right? That's a whole unique thing that we have to deal with as ADHDers. So you are in control of the changes that you're making, but also if you're trying to declutter, but also be a better mom, but also come up with a meal plan and also figure out how to use a calendar and also implement new routines, and you're trying to do all of that in a day because we overcomplicate everything, then yeah, it's not going to work out. So if you're listening to this and you don't have ADHD, ask the people in your life how you can support them. And in some cases, they're going to have no idea how you can support them, which is why they're listening to this podcast. But what you can ask for from people in your life is ask me how I'm doing, ask me what I'm working on, ask me if there's a goal that they can support me in achieving with no judgment and no shame and say, hey, how is that working? Because guess what? There's going to be weeks that I make absolutely no progress on the goal, seemingly, right? But it's just a bad week, and that's okay. And then there's going to be weeks that I make so much progress. I'm like, holy smokes, why can't I sustain this? Well, because we're humans and our hormones naturally fluctuate, which impact our ADHD symptoms. Okay. So it's as simple as that. It's all normal. Something I do with my clients is I send a mini podcast episode to them each week. And I talk to them about what we've said. Then I share with them, this is why your brain is doing that. This is why it's ADHD. And these are some things that you can do to work on it. And they've decided what they want to do to move forward. So huge. Some of the other things that I want you to know about my ADHD brain when it comes to disorganization, when it comes to work, when it comes to life, are some things that people in my community have shared. And I want to share them with you. So, number 6, I'm going to read this verbatim. My colleagues think I'm a slacker because I have trouble getting to school on time. They have no idea how much effort it takes me to get out of the house with everything I need for the day. I have let shame rule my life for far too long. I'm open to learning how to accept my challenges and work with them and not against them. I'm truly a work in progress, which my perfectionism does not like one bit. Anyone else here ever late to anything? And anyone listening kind of annoyed with the people who are late to everything? Yeah, well, shaming them for it doesn't help. It does not help. It does not help us get there on time No, lying to us and telling us that this event starts a half an hour early, that might work for a hot second, but that also doesn't help. Our brains work differently. And so getting out of the house on time or factoring in all of the time that it takes to get somewhere or do something, the traffic, the amount of driving time blindness is a real thing with ADHD. And when we have so much on our plate and our to-do list and trying to get out of the house on time, it is exhausting. And that's why we don't always get to the clutter. We don't, but what's important here in that statement is that we're dying to make a difference in our lives. We want so much to get to the other side, to be able to make it to somewhere on time, to feel proud of ourselves, and not to make it somewhere on time so people can be like, finally, right? Because that's not helpful either. But to like really truly be proud of ourselves because we freaking did it and we can do it again. So that takes time and it takes support and encouragement to be able to do it. Another question you could ask is, what could I do to support you in getting here on time? Sometimes it's just taking a step back. Okay, so I have to be there at 4 p.m. How long is it going to take me to drive there? Let me put it in the actual maps and take an estimate. Okay, I'm going to add 5 minutes so that I can get there in 30 minutes, right? Say it takes 25. So I'm going to say I'm going to leave by 3:30. Okay, well, what do I need in order to get there? Is it snacks because you're taking them to your kid's game? Is it right? Like all of these little things are things that we think should be easy for us to get out the door, but we haven't thought of everything. So now we're in the car. We forgot our sunglasses. So we go back to get our sunglasses, but then we get back in the car and we forgot our water bottle. And we get back into the house and we forget our keys. Like it is nonstop and it is exhausting. But when we have a little bit of support in getting to the other side, it does become a little bit easier. Another thing, someone else in the community, this is number 7 that I would like you to know. Okay, I'm going to read this. I wish others could understand how much mental effort it takes to keep everything together. My boss thinks I'm super organized, but it takes all my effort, and then I'm tired at night and struggle with simpler tasks. That is so real. I hate even washing my face at night. The amount of mental load that goes into the jobs that we're expected to do now and to stay organized on top of that is very exhausting. And when we're putting all of that effort into our job and then we have to go home and manage a household at the same time, it's exhausting. And there's this perception of being organized at work. So why can't I now be organized at home? There's so much that goes into this. And there's this idea of FOMO at work too. I talked about this earlier. We love doing all the things. And we get excited about these projects and we want to raise our hand to do these things because, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun and I don't want to miss out. When we already have 10 projects in queue that haven't been finished because we still have our regular workload to do, then we've got these other things that we've committed to, and we have no idea how to manage our time effectively in a way that makes sense because we are constantly being distracted by our phones or emails or Zoom meetings out our buttholes. So there's a lot that comes into that as well. Now, that particular, like being busy at work, it's not just an ADHD thing, but when you add the mental load and the chaos that's happening in the brains of rumination and dysregulation and approaching everything from this aspect of fight or flight, it adds this additional level of emotional attachment to everything that we're doing. And we're waiting for this moment that it's going to feel good to be able to attack all these different projects that we have. And the truth is that it's not. It's not going to ever feel good. And we've got to find a way to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And part of that is being uncomfortable and saying no, because saying no is actually the right thing for us to do, even when we hate the idea of saying no and disappointing someone else. But if we say no, gosh, wouldn't that be so incredible for ourselves? But that's another thing that prevents us from getting to the other side is we don't have any boundaries. And that's hard because then we start to look around us and we say, oh my gosh, I've literally trained everyone around me to understand I have no boundaries and that I won't say no to anything. So now they come to me with more. Isn't that a beautiful cycle to go down? Ugh. Okay, so that might be another episode. The last one here, number 8, I want you to know about my brain. I wish others would understand it's hard to focus on what they're saying unless they make sure to get my attention first. If there's a lot going on, I say what a lot, not because I wasn't listening, but by the time I realized someone was talking to me, I missed half of what they said. It's not easy to switch thinking between what you're doing and what someone is asking about. That's why it can be so difficult for us to work in an office setting where you could be in the process of doing something and someone walks up to your desk and interrupts you. It could take 10 to 15 minutes to get back into that project, maybe even an hour, because now you're so focused on the thing that this person interrupted you to do. You might not ever get back to that project that you were working on. Another thing that's really interesting is that we say what in the middle of someone saying something to us sometimes because our processing speed can be a little bit less. So we say what because we already heard them finish what they were saying, but we actually haven't processed it in our head yet, which is hilarious because our brains go really fast. So, on the other hand, we also process things really, really fast. So, when you're trying to explain something, we oftentimes get it before you finished explaining to us. And we need you to stop talking, actually. We need you to ask more questions instead of talking this much. As I'm talking to you for another 35 minutes, fine. You listen to this podcast. It's cool. It doesn't count for me, it just counts for everyone else. But yeah, it's so hard for someone to interrupt what we're doing. My gosh. And when our kids interrupt us, it's hard because we want so much to be there for them, and it interrupts our nervous system and gives us this like jolt of anxiety because now we've lost what we're working on. We've lost the focus we've developed for this one thing that we finally got ourselves to do. What's interesting about that too, on the flip side, and I've noticed this and I've brought it to my own attention as a mom, is when my kids are doing something, and I know that they likely have ADHD, is understanding that if I'm interrupting them, I can't expect them to be done right away. So instead of me saying, you got to be done with that, you've watched too much TV, or like no more tablet, things like that, I ask questions like, what does done look like? Hey, I know that you're working on this. Is there a like, do you have a stop time? How much time left? Can we do this? And let it be easy instead of just this abrupt change. That's the control thing again, is we want people to listen to us, and we are in control of our households. Most of the time, we're the CEOs of the household. So we want everyone to listen to us in the time, in this moment, so that we can get things done. And it's okay if we give people a little bit of a chance to have their own way of doing things and support them in the way that their brain works, because our brain works just like that. That has been fascinating, even though I know so much about myself and about my clients, continuing to discover more about my kids and what they're learning. Oh, it's been a world of a difference. Summarize here. I'm not lazy. I am a perfectionist. I get really excited about a lot of things, FOMO. It looks like it should be easy. It's not as easy as it should be. You can't change me. Only I can change me. I'm not a slacker because I don't arrive at things on time. I can be organized, but it takes a ton of mental effort. And when you interrupt me, it can make things more difficult. So, again, some of the questions I'd recommend during this episode are ask me more questions like, how are you? What are you proud of this week? What is something that you're working on that I could support you with? What is something I could celebrate with you? Did you have a win that I can celebrate with you? Because sometimes it's not something that you can see, but it's something that this person is truly experiencing that they could share with you that's not visible to you yet. You could, if you don't know what questions to ask, go to ChatGPT or look it up on AI. How could I ask someone with ADHD more questions so that I could understand them better? Go in curious. When in doubt, go in curious. Ask more questions. When people start to assume things about me, and we do that a lot with ADHD too, we assume and then we try to come up with solutions to fix people. No, but we hate it when it happens to us. When we assume about others, right? It makes an ass out of you and me, right? The whole thing. But also, it doesn't allow us to truly understand that person and what's going on. When we ask more questions, we can truly start to develop better relationships. I have so much more to say on this, but it's really easy to point the finger when you're not living in the reality. And especially when there's so much misinformation about ADHD out there, like, oh, well, everybody has a little bit of ADHD or like this or that. I don't know, maybe you have ADHD if you think everybody has a little bit of it. But yeah, some of these things are natural traits that people have, but it's not what we deal with regularly, which is constant and debilitating and can make or break our entire day. But when you do that, it demeans what we're going through. And then we start to shame ourselves even more because we're like, why the hell can I do this? When you choose to make a change and you're telling other people about it, if they shame you or judge you in any way, shape, or form, then they're not part of this process anymore. They don't get to be a part of your life while you're making this change. Because if they only have doubts or disinterest or reasons why you shouldn't, or reasons why you should be further along, then they're not going to be supporting you through the messy middle because the messy middle stinks. It's just not fun. Going from not having this be a part of your life to having it be a part of your life is not fun. Going from deciding to organize to getting to a place where you feel like you've finally become organized is exhausting. And you're going to have days that you don't believe in yourself, and you need to have people that do believe in you and that want to see you get to the other side. And research shows that when people with ADHD are supported based on their strengths and based on celebrating the little wins and support and encouragement, then we can go so far. That's why so many of us have become entrepreneurs. I am going to post an article in the show notes below, and I'm going to continue to do this. I love the articles that are out there. Attitude Magazine is a really good one. There's so many different ADHD resources out there, and I want to encourage you to continue to educate yourselves on what it means to have ADHD. Continue to listen to podcasts, find the right people for you. Of course, I have a coaching program and I would love to work with you one on one. It is a passion of mine. I fall in love with my clients, so you got to be prepared for that. But I help you get from point A to point B and all the messy middle in between. If you go to organizinganadhdbrain.com, go to coaching, you'll see a little bit more about what I offer there. If you have questions, email me, Megs at organizinganadhdbrain.com. I'd love to chat with you more about it. Or you can just book a discovery call with me to see what it means to coach. This is more of an investment because I only work with 8 people at a time because I cannot truly be thinking about more than 8 people at a time. I'm constantly thinking about how to support people in a different way. So again, go to organizinganadhdbrain.com/coaching and you'll find out more about what that group coaching has to offer. I'll leave you with this, as I often do, is that you're not broken. You're not broken, but your brain is chaos. Yeah, and that doesn't go away. And when you have less in your home, when you have less stuff that you're doing, when you have more boundaries and you start to figure it out one step at a time and not all of these things all at a time, you start to find the reason why you're doing it and how having more peace in your life comes from doing and having so much less. And that's okay. Something I didn't talk about is also really important to add in here. Emotions play a huge role in what we do. I did talk about this just very briefly, but we are reacting to everything around us because we are constantly, as I said, surveying our environment for threats. And then we're reacting with the amygdala, which is our emotion center of our brain. We're not making conscious decisions when we're seeing these things that are perceived threats. Now, oftentimes our emotions will then dictate what we do or do not do instead of us making our next conscious decision. So, part of getting on the other side of this is learning how to regulate our emotions in a way that makes sense. I have just finished an 8-week course on regulation, and it was one of the most incredible things I've ever done. And it's something that I've incorporated not only into the community, but into my coaching program as well. It is fascinating what you can do when you understand your brain and the way that it reacts to its environment, incorporating it with beliefs, incorporating it with understanding where you want to go so that you can truly take teeny tiny steps in that direction. None of us are lost on these methods and what we can do. I'm so excited to share more because it's fascinating what you can accomplish with some of this work. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you again next week. Thanks so much for listening to Organizing an ADHD Brain. Just remember, I am not a doctor or a mental health professional. Everything I share here comes from my own lived experiences or my professional experience coaching other ADHD humans. If you need medical or mental health advice, please reach out to a licensed medical professional. What you hear on this podcast is for support and education, and how you use the information is completely up to you. For more resources, free downloads, and different ways to work with me, whether through coaching or the community, please go to organizinganadhdbrain.com. And don't forget, the perfect place to start is right where you are.